Hello, everyone. All 27 of you.
I don't think there's that many listeners, but hey, everybody.
Welcome back, Caleb.
I'm here.
All right, we got Ethan again,
Unfortunately.
and we finally got Austin.
Here I am.
It has been it's like fucking pulling teeth to get this guy here.
Daniel and I aren't even really friends anymore. He's pretty much done.
It's been rough.
Yeah.
It's been rough. It has been rough. But he's here. We're happy he's here.
It's going to be lackluster.
All right, Ethan, tell us what you got.
I don't have anything.
When they introduce you on something like this, you're supposed to speak so that the voices get separated into like...
Yeah, but
people
you've never been
that are
on,
talking.
so...
All right, we have Ethan tonight. Still says nothing.
What's up, guys?
Crack of the beer is all you need to hear.
That's my signature mark.
That was kind of perfect.
That's him.
That was kind of perfect.
Oh my goodness, this is going to be a disaster. All right. So they're still taking all of our freedoms away with this bull crap that's going on.
Yep.
Anybody have anything to say about
I
that?
do have like an interesting little anecdote. My mom told me this the other day. She's got a friend that had to go get tested due to some like exposure at work or something, and he had to have 2 tests like before he was allowed to go back to work. And he's somebody that has like a pretty extensive list of like pre-existing health conditions.
Mm-hmm.
He's got like diabetes and like heart problems and something. I don't know. I don't know exactly what they were. Those were 2 of them. It's like 4. She gave me like 4 that were like pretty big stuff, you know.
Right.
And so he went to the first place to get the test, and the lady asked him all these questions about like pre-existing health conditions, and he told this woman the truth about all of his problems. And before he ever took the test, the woman was like, well, then you have it. Like, if you have all those pre-existing health conditions, like I would say with 90% certainty that you have it. And then they gave him his test results, and they were positive. And he had to go get another test. So he went to go get another test, and he lied about all of his pre-existing health conditions, and he got a negative test back. And there's like no real punch to the story other than that, but like that's odd at the least.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's very strange, especially somebody like, you have to imagine that someone that's like administering tests in a clinic like that is about as medically trained as like a Civil War doctor. You know what I mean? Like these aren't people that are like performing surgeries or anything. These are people that are like doing clerical paperwork and administering a swab.
Swabbing someone's throat and nose.
As soon as that woman heard about those pre-existing health conditions, she was 100% convinced that he had, the coronavirus, and he had no symptoms. There were no symptoms, no nothing. And that information alone like led her, before the test was even administered, to say like she was positive that he had it, and then he tested positive the first time. And that's odd to me. That was a story that was interesting, because you're seeing these doctors with the videos that are coming out, the guys from Bakersfield and all the nurses that are coming out like admitting that they're being pressured to over-report COVID patients. And when you see stuff like that, especially when you pay attention to information like this, like you kind of become numb to the shock of like, oh, that's going on, But when you hear about that, like I know this guy, I've met this guy several times that she's talking about, and I know that the story she told me that was true, and it's like that's going on everywhere.
Oh yeah.
If just the small testing center, this guy, like there's nothing significant about this person, this story, or this area, and you have to extrapolate there that like if that happens in one spot, randomized, there's always at least one more, and you have to imagine based on the numbers, like there's probably an exponential amount of inflation in the numbers because of stories like that. I mean, it seems to me like they're being. I wouldn't be surprised to find out that they're being like financially incentivized.
Oh, well, they are. Did you know that the hospitals right now, that if you have a patient in the hospital that tests positive for COVID-19, you get $13,000?
No, I did not.
Yes, you get $13,000. And if you put them on a respirator, you get $40,000.
And I mean, think about it. Just
when you diagnose them wrong for it and put them on a respirator, you fucking kill them.
Right.
So hospitals are incentivized to have COVID
and
patients.
states in general are incentivized to inflate their numbers, because the more cases, the more deaths they have, the more federal funding they're going to need to combat that.
Of course.
Then you're already seeing in states where they're not actually using the supplies and the things that they've been sent So where's all that money going?
Right.
You know what I mean? And
also, where's it coming from? Because if people really, and I'm trying to keep up with this concept as much during all this, because that's where you find your answers, is at the beginning of the money trail. Like that, if you can trace where this incentivized money is coming from, if you can analyze the intentions of the people who are putting this money out into society or whatever as incentive for these results, like that's when you start to get towards some answers. And that's people in general, like especially like big independent researchers. To me, that would be the best way. Like that should be the area of focus for not only this, but anything at all that seems questionable. Anything you have questions about, anything you feel like you're being lied about, like the best way to construct an accurate picture of the
who's making the
is
money,
to follow the money. There's a James Corbett documentary that he made, like independently, and it's called the 9/11 Money Trail or something. But it just goes over like the SEC investigation into all the insider trading that they just ordered all the documents to be destroyed and completely buried into the ground, and all of these different like major multi-million dollar transfers and wealth that occurred like in and around 9/11, and every single event that anybody has put the effort in to construct any type of trail like that as far as money goes, like that's always the most believable picture of a story that you're trying to figure out, and that's another interesting thing too that I haven't seen reported on a lot, even in the independent media outside of a few places. Like there's at least 7. I know the last number I saw, and this was a couple months ago, was 7. But there's at least 7 members of the U.S. government, mostly senators, that are being investigated for insider trading. Like in the last few months, since all of these like corporate entities' stocks have either risen or plummeted the way they have, and there's almost certainly a boatload of people that made their fortunes off of pre-existing knowledge of the situation that was about to unfold here.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be very interesting if somebody, because I'm an idiot, there's no way I'm going to put all that together. I look that direction because it interests me, but like somebody that has the resources and does this for a full-time living, it would be very interesting to see somebody delve really deeply.
We need a Lester Freeman on the case. Like he said it in The Wire years ago. You follow the money, that's where you get the big fish.
Absolutely.
Like,
absolutely.
That's it takes you to the top when you follow the money.
Yep.
And it's definitely something that seems like no one is doing.
Right.
No one that has any
that's going to get any attention in the mainstream or have any chance of being taken seriously like on a public level. You're absolutely right.
For sure. I mean, Fauci, Bill Gates, they're the ones that are going to prosper from this.
Well, like,
right?
Fauci is like one of the major investors in the lab. Like his personal money helped to fund a great deal of the research that occurred at the lab where this thing supposedly escaped from. Like it was a Wuhan lab, right? The level 4 bioweapons lab in Wuhan, China. He was like a primary investor in from the
he
very
will
beginning.
not like address that,
right?
Yeah, and I mean, I think he has some ties with the vaccines. Like I think he has some.
Yeah, of course, he works for the WHO, and that's their whole.
I mean, he's tied in with the
Bill
and Melinda Gates Foundation as well as the.
Do you guys know what that
Bill
was called
and
originally?
Hillary Clinton Foundation? Like he's tied in with them and the WHO. Like he is exactly whatever they fucking tell him to be.
No, exactly, and that's what all of these like. And I think this is where a lot of people get tripped up when they get into like alternative history and like alternative research and the alternative media and stuff. Is like you take those like the Faucis of the world, and people look at them as the end of the line. And it's like, that guy's an actor, like literally an actor. He plays the role that he needs to play in the game that's being played.
Yeah.
And he's a puppet, like all politicians with a public face, like that. That's puppetry, like that.
Yeah.
We need to like the way to expose that guy, if anybody was going to try to do it, would be to figure out where his money comes from, to figure out the connections that allowed him to enter into the positions that he came into, because there's always some intelligence guy in situations, and it may be him. A lot of times they send their own people, but like there's always a button man somewhere in these situations that is like a career CIA guy or NSA, whatever it is, just the intelligence apparatus of the Western world. Like these people are always lurking around in these institutions and like somewhere off to the side, kind of pushing things in a direction,
Yep.
And it would be interesting to see because he's got connections to the intelligence community almost certainly.
Of course.
And I think that those will be revealed. People are digging hard on this stuff, and I think that some of that will probably almost certainly come out, and that'll be an interesting thing to see.
Yeah. I mean,
where all that goes.
just the fact that he's owned by the World Health Organization,
Right.
Just like one of the
the
most
Clinton
corrupt
Foundation,
organizations on the
Right.
planet.
and the Gates Foundation,
Yeah.
goes to show you that he will do whatever they tell him to do.
Right.
What were you
He
saying
will
the
say
original
whatever he-
name of the
Bill and
bill?
Melinda Gates Foundation. It was the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for population control, and they got kicked out of a few countries for sterilizing a couple 100,000 women and causing the deaths of a couple 100,000 children. And they were like, maybe we shouldn't go on the nose with our branding just yet.
Yeah.
You know. But that was like the original. That was the original name of the foundation.
goal,
Was the
yeah.
Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for population control.
Well, I mean, you've seen the clips of Bill Gates in the TED Talk, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he says if we do a real good job with vaccines, we can reduce the population by 10 to 15%.
Yeah, it's 15%.
and he's literally like rubbing his hands
Yeah.
together, and he's
Yeah.
it looks like he's jizzing
Every
his pants
time
while
he's
talking.
on
Yep.
any news thing or anytime he's on anything, he's smiling. He's got the biggest fucking smile in this pandemic. Bill Gates is smiling his ass off, rubbing his hands together. Every fucking time.
Like a big grappler, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
It's insane.
that's good.
It's insane, man. It's
It is insane. It's Corbett actually is doing. You guys need to check the 2 videos he's put out the last 2 weeks. He's doing a series on Bill Gates's monopoly on global health, and he's been it's going to be. I'm sure he'll release it all in one video once it's all come out in episodes as a documentary. That's typically how he does like big works like that. But it's so excellent, dude. Like the videos that he's put out the last.
the
2
dude
weeks are
has
so
no
excellent.
medical background.
No.
Why is he telling everyone in the world that
Exactly.
they need to be vaccinated by his fucking company?
Exactly, and the problem,
Fuck you.
and this is because I could even just taking devil's advocate position on that side, I could understand the argument that you could make in response to that, as far as like he's a man who has become such a monolith in just the global community in general. When you talk about like the elite levels of society, that his money has allowed him to become an expert in these things. Like, you know what I mean? He has
he
technically
has the
spent all
resources to
these
hire the
years.
experts if he needs
Exactly.
to.
The problem is all the experts. Like this is what drives me nuts about this whole thing.
When you pay someone, they give you the results you want.
Yes,
not
absolutely.
the results that are the
Well,
truth.
let's even, because that's very important. I want to come back to that, but let's take that away from the equation for a second. All of this response, all of this lockdown, whatever you want to call it. I mean, we all know what it is. It's a power play, but like all of this that society has been transferred into, these actions were taken based on models that claimed that if we locked the entire world down and destroyed people's lives, 2.2 million people were going to die in America alone. Those models have been modified beyond less than 10% of their original numbers, and the same people that came up with the first models are still in charge of the response. Where in the world ever could you do your job 6% correctly and wind up having that job again and again and again after you've been proven wrong? It blows my mind. And the whole expert thing, there's a great video on expertology and how, like, especially now with the way that the media works, you don't have to verify any sources. You don't have to list one source. All you have to say is an anonymous source, an anonymous expert, an anonymous member of so-and-so field, and that's it. Like, this expert say, and also, like, when you really get deep into all this stuff, these experts are experts on the propaganda they've been fed their entire lives. Like, that's what you're an expert in, is exactly what the state told you the world looked like.
Yeah.
And you're never going to get it to people who don't think in the way that, the idea of the show is, obviously, by making that argument, but it stands true nonetheless. Like, that these experts are experts in things that they've been told. You look at people who get into positions like that, they're not critical thinkers.
Yeah.
They're people who are very good at following a regimented routine into a position of wealth and power that's been laid out to them by people who have an interest in using them for their own machinations. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it seems like that time and time again is where it all ends up, and it comes from on a real root level, like the education system that these people are created out of, which is nothing more than state indoctrination. And it's like, you're an expert in exactly what someone told you.
Can I read
Congratulations.
this? Can I read this real quick?
Absolutely.
It says, when people look to the experts, they should keep this in mind. Experts told us cigarettes were good for us, eggs are bad for us, and had the food pyramid upside down for 30 years. Now our experts are telling us that death from starvation, depression, alcoholism, drug use, and lowering of our immune system are all better than death from a virus. I'll live in freedom.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's very the eggs thing touched a nerve with me. I want to talk about this for a second. There's a guy, because I doubt this has been covered. This is like, people don't talk about this a lot, but I think it's very important to understand, like specifically the media system that we exist under. Sigmund Freud had a nephew named Edward Bernays that in America is known as the father of public relations, like the public relations being your image in the public despite of your action, managing the way that people perceive you as a person. He wrote a book called Propaganda, and he was hired by all these major corporations. I mean, Freud was like part of that whole elite group of people. Like back then it was like eugenics and like aristocracy, and it was kind of like racially motivated, but whatever you want to call it, it's that like group of people that were conducting global events. And his nephew was hired. He's very fond of Sigmund Freud, so he studied under him like pretty intensely and really grew to understand like deep depth psychology aspects of the way that human beings work. And because he had all these connections, he was able to like market this understanding to companies and use it as a way to inform them on how to sell products. And there are two major examples that always get talked about when people do bring him up, and that he talks about in his book. He wrote a book called Propaganda, first of all. I mean, there's really no reason for me to even keep talking, but just to drive the point home a little further, like when you think about, just somebody answer me this, like when you think about like a hearty American breakfast, what are the two things that come to mind?
Bacon and eggs.
Exactly. Now, do you know why that is?
No.
All right, so I want to say it was either like the major pork producer. That's what it was. It was the bacon guy of the age, whatever it was. Like, especially in this area of this era of the country, 1920s, 30s, 40s, all major industries like that were monopolies. There was at that point in time, there had been about 50 years where industry had exploded, and there were men in every corner of different industry that had kind of cornered their own specific market, and they held these monopolies. And they came to Edward Bernays and said, we're getting crushed by other breakfast industries, and people aren't buying our products in a way that they used to. And Edward Bernays said, well, then what we're going to do is we're going to take bacon and eggs, and we're going to claim that it's an American breakfast. It's a hearty American breakfast, and we're going to claim that it's like irrefutably healthy for you. And we're just going to say that. Like they didn't do any. There was no grounding for this information. You know what I mean? He's like, but if we pull on people's heartstrings that way, they'll start buying. And sure enough, it didn't take you a second to answer the question that I asked.
Right.
The second one, and this is why the cigarette companies came to Edward Bernays and said, we're at it. We've reached our max because all the men in the country that smoke, and we're not selling any more. We're not seeing growth anymore. Yeah. Like the people who have decided they're going to smoke, they're all men. It was considered at the time. It was considered like unflattering of women to smoke. So they right there, your business is cut right down the middle. 50% or maybe a little on one side or the other, but you get what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. You're getting half the population. So Edward Bernays hired all these actresses and models of the time and staged this huge, because we still had like there was a burgeoning like women's rights movement after they gained the right to vote. The like kind of the prelude wave of feminism was like rising in this country. So he organized a march with all these women, and he hired all of these actresses and models to be at the head of this march. And he walked down a line and handed them all cigarettes and told them, reporters are about to be here, and when they get here, make sure that you're smoking these. And when the reporters ask you why you're smoking cigarettes, even though in society it's deemed unladylike or whatever, what you tell them is that these cigarettes are your torches of freedom, and that you're claiming your independence, by bucking on these, and women started smoking immediately like that. Big tobacco grew to the giant that it is right now. It's genius, and it's also very simple psychology, like very simple, and that just keeps happening. Like that playbook that he wrote is flawless as far as people that have no understanding of their own psychology or the way that the minds of the people around them work, and that same idea has gone straight into 9/11. It went straight into OKC. It went straight into this coronavirus thing, and it's let's play on people's base emotions and claim that if they obey, that they stand on the moral high ground. You know what I mean? And that it's amazing because that, like I said, that this was damn near 100 years ago now, where he kind of laid all this out for Western society, and it's exactly what you see when you turn on your TV. Every single day.
Yeah, man.
People go read propaganda. It's very interesting.
Something to touch on real quick back on COVID.
I'm gonna touch on you.
Me and Austin were watching the TV earlier. It just happened to be on the news or whatever. I think my mom was watching it, and it flashes on the screen: mysterious new illness linked to COVID-19.
On the day
new
that
respiratory
society start to open back up.
As soon as we open back up, it talks about a mysterious new illness. And if you would you look it up, because it's like do what? Just look up mysterious.
Jamie, can you pull that up?
Look up a mysterious new illness linked to COVID. I think it's hospitalized. They said 14 people already. It's absurd.
They did the same thing with kids, though. 3 or 4 days ago, there was a report. I saw 2 different sources reported it. I don't know how many did, and I don't know how much attention it got. But that COVID-related complications were affecting children under the age of like 7 or something, and it was a few days. It was after everyone had announced that we're going to open stuff back up and that governors decided we're not doing this anymore. The same day, boom. Watch out for your children.
Just got to scare you a little more.
They've been saying, and the children are pretty much safe.
Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
This is about the children now, and it's funny because that's like what's going on with the thing?
That's exactly what we wanted.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. CNN has a ad on it. Okay.
A death metal ad.
God damn it, CNN.
It's for like some kind of a game, but yeah, like they've already convinced you, like if you don't take this seriously, you're going to kill your grandparents,
right?
And then
the nans and the paps.
Next vulnerable. Now I'm going to kill my kids.
You're going to kill your children
because, and it's funny, and maybe this is me going a step too far into it, but I believe that specific line of reasoning was organized in that way particularly. It's like, let's start with the old people, and if that doesn't take, then we'll go to the kids, because that's where you hit people right there, and that's the thing you keep in your back pocket, because you can throw it out later if you don't need it, and it's going to have the same impact. People feel ways about their children and will do things for their children that they would never do under any normal circumstance, and as soon as the nans and the paps weren't in danger anymore, nobody bought it. It was, all right, well, now your kids are fucked, so what are you going to do now? And it bugs me, dude. I get so sick to my stomach, like I think I told Ethan this, it may have been my mom I was talking to, but I rode through Kroger. I know I told you. I rode through Kroger. Right now in Oxford, if you want to go into a shopping, anywhere to shop in the city limits, you have to have a mask on. Anywhere. It's a dumb liberal college town. It's beside the point. But I cannot participate in society without a mask in the town that I live in right now. I can't. I'll be fined, and the store owner will be fined if somehow, whatever that comes to the light of the people who enforce it. But I've just been like going 15 minutes out of town to shop if I need to go get something, because I'm just not. I just won't do it. I'm sorry.
Can't.
And it's probably, I should probably just. I don't actually believe that, but there is the argument that like it's just a mask, and I kind of understand it, but it's like it's not just a mask. You just don't understand what comes behind things like this. But anyway, I rode through Kroger the day after they passed that ordinance. And like directly, Kroger's always split between entrance and exit side, and they're, concrete wall, whatever in between. huge dry erase board on the in-between. You can't miss it if you're trying to walk in the store on either side. And instead of saying, this is the thing, if you want to cut for the government and be that type of institution or whatever, fine. Admit it.
Yeah.
Don't manipulate me.
Right.
There's a sign, huge dry erase board, and it says, let's be patriots together.
Oh, God.
Dude, think of, like, stop for a second and think about the fact that, like, this is a store. The members of this store are members of a community that we're all a part of. It's the only thing that's ours. You know what I mean? Like, your community is the most important base level place for you to cultivate a life that is conducive to keeping from harming others and all that stuff. That's just where it starts, is in your community, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the opinion that the people in your community have of you.
Yeah.
That are in positions to make decisions like that, is that something so blatantly manipulative and insulting, just throw it out there, it'll be enough.
Yep.
These people are useless. They'll never understand how dishonest it is.
Right.
So just put it out there for them.
Yep.
And they'll jerk themselves off.
They'll buy it.
And they'll congratulate each other. And they'll call themselves heroes. And they'll gang up on anyone who disagrees with them.
That's how genius this whole fucking thing is.
It's genius. Well, it's psychology.
Exactly.
Is what it is.
But, and that's the thing. It's been a long game of tricking people and
Absolutely.
using mind control to get people in this position in the first place. It took a long time to get people into a position where they're just so willingly able to just give up. We don't have to think. There's no reason to think because the government thinks for us. They know what's best for us. The experts told us that this is what we need to do. Let's all do it because we're going to be heroes, like you said. We're going to be the heroes that save our grandparents and our children.
The right side of history.
You know, yeah, exactly. And it's you are sacrificing everything that makes you
not only that,
a human.
You're sacrificing it for everyone else, and you will be held accountable karmically for that. These people don't understand that the things that they're doing and like I'm talking on a grand scale here, but like on the cosmic scale of whatever all this is, they are fucked.
Yep.
They are fucked because what they're doing is wrong. And it doesn't, you can do whatever you want in your life, wrong or right. And I believe as long as it's like within your own life and your influence doesn't spread outside of that, if you're in a negative state or in a negative loop, whatever it is, you're probably going to be pretty much fine.
Yeah.
But when you start to compromise, not pretty much fine, but my point is
the micro affects the macro, and it always will.
Exactly.
Right?
And that when you sell out, because this is the thing, these people that are complicit, if they're the majority or if they're allowed to become the decision makers among normal people, they're going to sell 7 billion people into slavery.
Yep.
They're fucked.
Yep.
They are fucked.
They will be fucked.
Those are the people that are keeping humanity from for lack of a better term, from leveling up.
Yep.
Like we're headed somewhere that's higher. That's a higher level of consciousness. It's more than this. Like the next plane. That it's a process. I believe, and this is, this is something that's like goes much deeper, and it's probably not going to make sense to like, the other 20 people that listen to this or whatever. But as a collective, like humanity is moving. The goal is to move up. Those people that enforce the things that we were talking about are tying ropes around the ankles of everyone else and pulling with all of their might, man. And
absolutely,
it's going to be very ugly for you in the next iteration of whatever this is.
You can't escape what governs us, and what governs us is this natural law, right? And if you are going against it and breaking it the way that they're doing, there's no escape. It may not happen tomorrow. Right, the effect may not happen tomorrow.
No, and it won't happen tomorrow.
There will be an effect for what is happening right now.
Absolutely.
And the people that are pushing to enslave the rest of us by their actions, saying that we are the ones who are insane because we don't want to wear a mask or because we don't want to protect grandma or our children, like their actions are what will cause the effect of dismay on all of us eventually. And it's
absolutely,
you can't get around it. There's no escaping these things that govern us.
Absolutely.
And
Passio makes an excellent argument in this case, and it's in his lecture specifically about like the police and the military, and it's like those people need to understand that even more than the people who gave the order.
Oh yeah. Oh,
they're gonna be held responsible.
1,000%
because
more.
you
The
went
people
and
who
did the thing.
Yes, the people
You
who
went
give
and
the
did the
order
thing.
understand
Yep.
that when they give the order,
Yep.
they can wash their hands of this,
Absolutely.
right? Because
Absolutely.
you're the ones who did the actions, not them.
Yep.
They just told you something, right? You have a choice at that point whether you want to obey those orders or disobey
That's
them.
the free will
If you
part.
obey them, then you are the ones who did the wrong, not the person who gave the order.
Absolutely.
It's not on them. And they know this. That's why they give their dogs the fucking order.
Exactly. All right, so do you think that the people who give the order are able to entirely wash their hands?
No, not entirely.
Okay. All right.
Not entirely, but for the most part.
Right. No,
they
I agree with
they
90%.
Have, they have a really good argument to go, I didn't do it.
Absolutely, they do.
I didn't do it. All I said was to this guy to go do it.
Yeah.
He had a choice. He's an individual, right? He has a choice to make, and he chose to listen to me, but he didn't have to.
Yeah.
So why am I the one being held accountable for it,
Yeah.
right? So they get 90% of their hands washed,
Agreed.
and that's they don't get to escape it 100%, but
They won't.
It's
They'll
it's
get a tenth of what their lap dogs get.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And the military and police need to realize that you are the ones who will pay for these things in the long run.
Right.
Your fucking masters will not, because they're smarter than you.
Right, because they didn't do anything.
They didn't do a damn
They
thing.
didn't do anything.
They didn't do anything.
Like at
You're
a
right.
fundamental, as far as like the physical plane action level,
Yep.
they did nothing.
They did nothing.
They did nothing.
You're just a dumbass who believed that they were right, and you followed their orders,
and that you had some obligation to follow their order.
and that it's a virtue to do so.
Well, that not even that you had an obligation, but because I need a paycheck,
yeah.
that it's okay. Like
Yeah.
you are as much of a pussy as anyone has ever been in your entire life if you go out and you violate the rights of a member of your community and then claim that the justification is that you did it for money. That is fucking psychotic, dude. It makes me sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I see those kinds of videos all the time.
Oh, it
too.
makes me fucking sick, dude.
Back to the child thing real quick. It's a article posted by CNN today. It's called Pediatric Multisystem Inflammatory Syndrome is what they're calling it. But it talks about just how it's affecting children, basically.
How?
And that it says doctors are referring to the condition that has hospitalized dozens of children as what I just said.
Right.
And health officials believe it could be linked to coronavirus. 3 children have died because of its New York governor, Andrew Cuomo.
Como.
Fuck that
Said
guy.
Saturday.
Fuck that guy.
So 12 kids. How many
Hold on,
kids
hold
are
on,
in the
hold on,
hospital
hold on.
going to the hospital every day?
Let's talk about this for a second. Did you read that entire post or article or whatever?
Well, I
just
was
then?
no, I was just reading the symptoms of it, and they're saying that it's similar to Kawasaki disease and toxic shock syndrome.
That's when you get run over by a dirt bike. And
Yeah, no, that's it. It has a picture of a dirt bike and a kid getting hit.
send me that.
No, but this is what they were talking about on the news about a mysterious disease linked to COVID, and this came out literally yesterday as we
as
today,
everybody's
as we're opening
gearing up to open up. Yeah,
We have
of
3
course,
children
of
that
course.
have died.
And this is
Mysterious.
another thing I've been talking about a lot with people recently is like understand that as soon as the temperature starts to drop again, all
it's
of this
coming
is
back.
going to happen again.
Yeah.
And not only that, every member of society that doesn't understand how to think of themselves is going to blame all of us in this room for that resurgence in the virus.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we
And
just
not only
stayed locked
that-
down through the
not
summer,
only that-
this wouldn't have happened.
Because you're
in
not
the
a
winter.
patriot if you're-
Exactly.
if you're-
And not only that, there is a decent chance that kind of the same way with the way that Antifa operates, that action and violence against people like us will be tolerated under our legal system when all of this comes back.
Probably.
I'm fully prepared for that because if it doesn't happen immediately, because the brilliant part about our establishment, like the Anglo-American establishment that exists, like as part of Western culture today, that like the globalist institutions, whatever you want to call them, is they understand the concept of incrementalism, which is a concept, another concept that Edward Bernays laid out, which is if you want to take things from people and you want to direct people in a certain direction, you don't push them. You put your hand on their shoulder, You talk real nice to them,
Go, hey,
and
man.
you just start walking.
Let's go this way.
And they just walk
Buddy.
right with you
Come with
over
me.
the cliff. Exactly. And it takes hundreds of years, but it doesn't matter because these institutions are already on top. They already live above the law. They live whatever lives they want to. They're completely unaccountable on this earth entirely.
Are the fucking king of the long game.
Absolutely.
This has been thousands of years.
Absolutely.
In the making.
And
that sounds crazy, but that's the truth.
Well, it is, but I believe that this concept of incrementalism is something that they came to understand fairly recently. And I saw a comment on Reddit the other day that it's very simple, but it really struck me. And it was a comment in reference to Bill Gates, and the comment was that they realized that if they keep calling themselves kings and queens, people would stand up against them. Mm-hmm. So you just take a step back and you slow down the process.
Yep.
And it's the same process. It has the same steps, but you just slow it all down. You give people just enough to be fairly comfortable. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter that those people don't understand how much they're worth, or it doesn't matter that the fact those people don't understand that like they're fundamentally the instrument that makes the person above them millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. Like these people have no concept of that, and as long as they can go home and turn on a TV and throw a dinner in the oven, they'll do whatever the fuck you tell them, man, because life is pretty easy.
Yep.
And that people, the worst type of person to me is someone that will take all this information that we're talking about and they have enough of an open mind to consider it and go, yeah, duh, like government's corrupt, whatever. But shit's pretty good, man.
Yep.
And it's like, all right, yeah, go to hell.
Yeah, but what about tomorrow?
Go to hell.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing, and it drives me nuts, like, especially right now in the mainstream media, everyone in this room is being labeled as selfish. Mm-hmm. It could not be more of an inverse. Like, every single one of your children, my children, like potential children, their children, anyone that we're leaving this world to, we have a karmic obligation to leave them something worth living in. And the people, specifically with the virus, the people that go, 30 million people losing their jobs is no big deal. You're not talking about the greater good. No. Cut your fucking bullshit.
Yep.
That's not what you're talking about. Come out like a fucking adult human and say it out loud. I'm a pussy. I'm terrified of what's going on in the world.
Yep.
And if it costs you everything you have,
I don't care because I'm
I
afraid.
don't give a fuck because I'm terrified. You fucking coward scum.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. You're so fucking afraid that you'll sacrifice everyone else so that you're safe.
Absolutely.
Because you've been lied to, and that's what it really is.
And,
they
turn right around. They go on CNN, they go on MSNBC, and they go, the greater good.
MSLSD,
because
we must be fucking tripping the shit they're fucking saying.
It makes me want to throw up, dude. It really does. It's like,
yeah, dude.
I don't need you to look out for me.
No.
I don't need it. No thanks.
No.
Stop making decisions that affect my life. I didn't ask, and I don't need it.
First off, I've never voted, so I've not consented to any.
You also didn't sign any of the documents that set up the governance of this land. You didn't sign a single one of them. At best, at the very best, they're contracts. At their very best interpretation, they're contracts.
And I'm not under those.
You know how you make yourself liable for a contract? You put your goddamn name on it.
Yeah.
None of us signed the Constitution.
You put your fucking name on it.
Yeah.
None of us signed it.
Nobody gave us an opportunity.
Fucking voted.
I probably would have signed it.
I probably would too if you give me an opportunity to fucking sign it. But I never had an opportunity.
At one point, I definitely would have.
It's supposed to be that if I vote, then it's kind of a way of signing it. But I've never even voted.
No.
Right? Because the fact is that the voting system doesn't follow the Constitution.
No, not at all.
None of it follows what the Constitution says. Right? So I'm not going to do that. You know, I'm wearing a shirt right now that says voting is.
I was literally looking at
that.
Fucking the suggestion box of slaves.
I love that.
Choosing masters every few years doesn't make you free, and that is the truth. Like that is the truth. I'm sorry, but that's the fucking way that it is.
I've never ever gone through an election cycle in my life where I didn't hear someone say, "Well, I'm going to choose the lesser of two evils."
It's the only thing you hear.
If you choose evil, no matter what it is,
you are evil.
You are evil,
Yeah,
and you're
absolutely.
perpetuating evil.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Stop.
Absolutely.
Stop doing it. Start ruling yourself, and stop asking other people to rule over you.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
And if you can't rule yourself, starve.
And it's
There you go.
That sounds harsh. Fucking starve.
yeah,
Because
but
it's
And
not
you-
up to you.
Here's the thing, though. There are so many people who do rule themselves, that could rule themselves, that still have a heart for people who are poor, sick.
I think we all
They
are
would
those
still
people.
fucking take care of
yeah,
those people,
because
right?
Absolutely.
there are people doing that now that the
Yeah.
government aren't taking care of.
Right.
Listen, and I keep coming.
So-
And that's the argument. That's always the argument when you start to talk about government. Is like, how do we get the infrastructure? One, and Jason, you could probably Google this. Not a dime, not one single 10-cent piece of money has been spent on domestic infrastructure based on taxation since 1974. Not a single dime. The debt grew
Of,
so
like,
large. Federal income tax, all that stuff. By 1974, the debt had become so large that the entire bulk of federal tax that everyone's taxed every year goes immediately into offsetting the debt. They don't spend a dollar in domestic infrastructure. Also, there's hundreds of miles of entirely privately funded roads all over this planet. All over it. Completely privately funded, outside of government projects. Private money.
Yeah.
Again, I keep going back to this, but it's because to me the guy's the best independent journalist on the planet. James Corbett has a video called "But What About the Roads?" is the title, and it's an hour-long video where he goes into all these instances of major highway. I'm talking major highways in countries, roads that people travel every single day. They're essential to their lives. That
That are
did
not funded by government.
did not take a dime of government money to build.
Yeah.
Not a dime. That argument is so fucking weak and tired because the assumption that you make. Hey,
I got you.
Told him to bring it in here.
not a single argument that you make.
Hang on, listen.
It's not valid. I've completely lost my train of thought. I was going to be a little more astute than that, but it's not. No, like I said, all those arguments. There's an alternative. The idea is that if you didn't have a group of people that had the right to steal from you and a monopoly to use violence, no roads would get built. Because that's the argument when you say that the infrastructure wouldn't exist without taxes. That's what you're saying, is that a group of people that were arbitrarily chosen to have the only right to use force build all the roads, and without them there'd be no roads. It's absurd. People need to get places.
Yeah.
Wealth will always amass. We can go to Jordan Peterson, the Pareto distribution. There's always going to be 20% here, 80% here.
Yeah.
Those 20% need roads as bad as anyone else,
Yeah.
and if they are not there, those people will spend their money, and they might even charge. This is the thing, man. You want to get rid of the government? I'll pay $1 every time I drive on a road. Gladly.
Don't they
get
do that?
the fuck rid of
Doesn't
them?
the government do
All
that
those
in
private
places?
roads that I'm talking. Yes, absolutely. You talk about Easy Pass, dude. They track your time all up and down the East Coast, New York City, Boston, all that stuff. You put a device in your car. It tracks how long you were driving. They take that into account with the distance that you drove. If you make the trip in a shorter distance than that algorithm says you should make it, they send you a speeding ticket in the mail.
They do that now?
Yes. They've been doing that on the East Coast for 20 years.
Hold on, they put trackers in everyone's car?
I don't know if it's a
It's
tracker
not-
or what it
it's
is.
not-
You
What?
go through like a toll booth.
What?
You gotta sign up for that. Like the Easy Pass, you put something. in your
But
car.
the point is, even without the Easy Pass, they're tracking all those vehicles.
Oh, I'm sure.
They're tracking all those vehicles. They'll still send you a ticket. The Easy Pass is a way for you to not have to go through the toll.
Yeah.
The Easy
but
Pass
that's
is
what-
just play right through there, and I'm sure that makes it easier. There are people. There's a podcast I listen to with a comedian that lived in Philly when the podcast started and was making trips to New York regularly to do stand-up because that's kind of the scene. You know, it's you go to New York, you go to LA. So this guy's making trips to New York constantly. There are 2 or 3 instances over the course of the podcast. I'm animated, bro. Fuck yourself.
No, I'm just saying, it's probably loud on the mics.
It really is. I hear
Yeah.
that in every podcast I listen to. Stop banging the table, but
Yeah.
I'll never be able to stop. But no, but there's like 2 or
You
3
need to get you a
instances.
piano.
There's like 2 or 3 instances in that podcast where he talks about, I got a speeding ticket in the mail because apparently I got to the next checkpoint too fast. Like that type of shit is what I'm talking about. Like, not only is the government taking your money to build the roads that they're doing that on, they're taking more of your money if you drive on those roads in a way that someone has arbitrarily decided is the incorrect way. It's fucking madness.
Well, that's terrifying.
They're there to harass and collect, son.
Absolutely. It's coercion. I never heard it broken down so easily as like Mark Passio breaking down taxation, basically. But it's like, and it's all right there in front of you. You just, issues like this are so complex on the face that you tend to
It's like you feel like it's too complicated, so you don't.
Well, not even that you don't think about it, but even when you try to think about it and discuss it, you take it into places that are too complex. This is the thing. Stop paying your taxes and see what happens. Just see what happens. And then when you understand that people will come to your house and murder you. Do you guys know who Bill Cooper is? Mm-hmm. He had a radio show for 20 years about
William
all of
Cooper?
this. William Cooper. Mm-hmm. The man, dude.
They killed him because he didn't pay his taxes.
They came to his house and they shot him in his head in front of his wife because he completely detached himself from the need to participate in this system in any way. So the sheriff's department came to his house and they murdered him in front of his family in cold blood.
Yep.
Right there. And that's what it is. You're under coercion from the moment that you're born. You're being coerced. You have one option. No, you have two options. You have one option, comply, and you have the other option, have everything that makes you human violated. Mm-hmm. That's coercion at its basest level. And people will call you a lunatic for calling taxation coercive robbery.
I mean, it boils down to this, right? Like, would you claim that it's wrong if you worked a man and took all of his wages from him?
Right.
Almost everyone would say yes, right?
Right.
I think we have a word for that.
Slavery.
Yeah,
Okay.
There you go.
That would be slavery, right?
Absolutely.
Everyone would get behind that, right? What about if we took half of it? What does that turn into?
To take half of mine.
It's half slavery.
Half slavery, right?
If this is, because we had an argument about this last night, and it was Bill Burr is who I was listening to that was talking about how right now at the level that he's in, the tax bracket he's in, he goes out, does shows, does everything that he does, and at the end of the year he pays 54% income tax on all that.
It's probably true.
Yeah,
It's not true.
of course it is.
I don't know if that's true.
It's not that high at all.
Income tax, probably not. But if you're
No, but there's all these different. This is the thing. You're talking federal income tax when you say income tax, but all of it is income tax because they're taxing your income.
Yes.
They're taxing the money
Your property
that you
taxes.
made.
Property
Exactly.
taxes.
It's the same thing.
Social Security.
Total taxation
all of it
is above 50%.
Yeah,
for people
it all
in that
comes out
class.
of licensing, permitting, everything you have to do to fucking move around or do anything comes
Well,
out of your income, right? Yes. Things that I have a right to do as a free human being, as a sovereign human being, that God gives me a right to do, like fishing, driving, all these things I have rights to do. No one, they tax me for it. They make me have a license to go fish. They make me have a license to drive a car or a permit to fucking have a boat. Register your fucking car, insure this. All of it is an income tax,
you never
right?
own land because if you stop paying your property taxes, they'll take it.
They'll take it,
Absolutely,
right?
they will.
So I don't actually own the property that I own, right?
You're just renting it.
I'm
from
just
the
renting
government.
it from the government.
Yep.
Is that
But
not
you've
insane?
already paid for the value of the land. Now you just have to
Now
continue
I have to
pay
continue
them.
to pay for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Even when I've paid my loan off for the property that I've
still
bought,
paying property
I have
tax.
to pay them taxes until I die, or they'll come and take my land that I've already paid off.
So
Absolutely.
if it's completely paid off, you still have to pay the tax on it?
Yes.
100% until the day I die.
Yes.
I have to pay property
Yes.
taxes until
Right
the
up
day I
until
die.
you're on a ventilator at 90 years old, on your deathbed in some piece of shit hospital, then property taxes had better be paid.
I don't know if,
and then when you die, they tax your kids
Yeah.
off your inheritance.
That's what
Exactly.
I was going to say.
Exactly.
Trump was supposed to be getting rid of that in the tax cut he did. I don't know if he actually did or not, but like that was one of the most insane things I've ever heard is the death tax.
Yeah.
Like if you die, the money that you are leaving to your children, the government gets some of it.
Isn't that insane?
Let's quit talking about it. Let's go burn some government shit.
I'm down. How do you guys feel about Timothy McVeigh?
I don't know.
Oklahoma City bombing.
All right. So, pretty obviously MK Ultra
Okay, hold on.
To me.
All right. Okay, why?
because he was involved in Harvard LSD experiments.
Was he?
Yes.
I haven't looked into that.
Okay. Well, yes.
He was very upset about Waco.
This is the thing, man. the guy knew. 100%. Have you read the manifesto?
I've read some.
We're getting into hot take territory here, baby.
Well, elaborate on who this guy is
territory.
for the people that listen.
This guy blew up a federal building and killed a bunch of people, but he didn't. He didn't. Timothy McVeigh didn't blow that building up by himself. Harvard LSD experiments, almost certainly. You've done acid.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of made you understand some shit.
It did. Mm-hmm.
This guy looked at a world around him, and you have to imagine they're dosing the fuck out of these people in these experiments.
Yep.
This guy understood. This is the thing. I believe that people are born in various states of consciousness, as far as like your, and you could even talk about it like Peterson does, like trait openness, where like you're open to ideas, you're willing to filter information unmolested by your own biases and process it accordingly. Let's assume for a second that Timothy McVeigh was one of those people.
Okay.
They're crushing him with acid in these experiments. He's living in a world where, and especially in his time, every single piece of information you received about global events was propaganda because there was no internet.
Right.
You're talking like corporate-owned and controlled media businesses that told the people exactly what they wanted to tell them and what they were supposed to be told. Maybe this guy is one of those people that inherently understands that, because this is the thing, and I think it's true for everyone in this room, and it's the reason that we've always struggled with religion, some of us struggled with drugs, and it all comes from the fact that none of us have ever been able to believe 100% the word of another man without any evidence. And I think every person in this room has been that way their entire lives, whether they realize it or not. If you really, really stop and think about it, unique to every individual in this room, the trouble that you got into stemmed from the inability to take on
believe
faith
what someone says,
the words that someone told you. So let's assume that there are people that exist like that, and that Timothy McVeigh, and we're talking hypothetical, I'm not claiming to know what happened. Hypothetically, you take somebody that has that predisposition and has that kind of bent as far as their view of the world. You dose the shit out of them continuously with LSD, and then you send them back into the world with the sensitivity that prolonged psychedelic exposure gives you. Have you read the manifesto? I just asked you.
I think I've read like pieces of it. I've read some of the things. No, I haven't.
The entire manifesto is about how technology is being progressed in a manner that is going to be used to control humanity. That's what the entire manifesto is about, is that these tech companies, these technologies that are being rolled out are going to be used to spy and manipulate the entire population.
And he was right.
And all that. And it literally reads like a prediction of the future. His manifesto reads like a prediction. Dude, we are so deep in hot take territory right now, dude. This guy blew up a government building. But that was his response. Now, let's talk about OKC for a minute. The FBI reported, as well as over a dozen eyewitnesses reported, that on that morning they saw Timothy McVeigh in the truck with another man. The FBI initially put a manhunt out for Timothy McVeigh and John Doe number 2.
Kind of like Sandy Hook.
There's no records at all today of John Doe number 2 being a person of interest in the investigation of the bombing. According to the FBI's records, you can go right now on a few independent researchers' YouTube channels and find news clips from the day of the occurrence where the FBI released a statement and a picture, like an artist rendering of the guy claiming that there was a second person in the truck that aided this guy. They literally found the person who did it. James Corbett has a video called, he has a series called Requiem for the Suicided, where he takes all these people who supposedly committed suicide, whistleblowers, what have you, these people that are supposedly involved in these things, that died under mysterious circumstances, whose deaths were ruled suicides. There's like 10 of these videos. One of them is the video about John Doe number 2. This guy went to prison. The guy that supposedly the artist rendering sketch is of went to prison and told his cellmate that he was involved in these things, and eventually killed himself. And whatever, it's always like 2 gunshots to the back of the head or something similar to that. But whatever the circumstances of his death were, it's like this guy obviously didn't kill himself.
Hands tied behind their back and
And
drowned
he
in a
told
pool.
people in his life, like, this is what
That's how I
happened.
would go out.
All of that has been completely stricken from the official record and from the media archives. But people have been hip to the shit for so long, and it's less people than it is now, used to be, but these people have been archiving these news clips, and there are people out there that still have them, and you can go watch them. That's gone. The record of that guy and everything about him other than alternative, like, media figureheads has completely been erased from the American conversation about that event, you know?
I have a question.
I don't even know. Okay, go ahead.
Was Ted Gunderson one of the people that talked about OKC? Wasn't he talking about the bomb
extensively
that was used was
Michael
designed
Aquino
by someone who worked in the federal government?
All right, now let's get into it. So,
Okay.
Michael Aquino is a man that, you know about the Franklin scandal? The bank in Franklin, Nebraska that got the feds kicked the door in, shut it down. Turns out there's over 100 children that have come forth and said that major members of the community and also of the specifically Larry King Jr. is a black guy in the Republican Party in the 80s, were pimping these children out. They were taking them from like Boys Town and all these places in Nebraska and pimping them out. There were children that were flown to the White House that in court described to a T what the inner chambers of the White House look like without supposedly having ever been there. All of those kids are dead now, by the way, or in prison.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
Every single one of them.
Yeah.
Michael Aquino claims that he worked for an intelligence agency group called the Finders, which is the group that was supposedly running all this shit. Michael Aquino also claims that he got into the intelligence community through his contacts with the military, where he engineered a bomb that worked on water that was like not the equivalent of like a mini nuke, but it was one of those things where it was above top secret classification, the specs for this bomb. Michael Aquino goes to prison for 30 years over some. He came out during the Franklin scandal and attempted to like kind of shed some light on what was going on, and they set him up. They sent a prostitute towards him and set him up, and he went to jail for 30 years for soliciting drugs from a prostitute. He calls Ted Gunderson in prison after OKC and says, I designed the bomb that blew that building up, and there is no way in hell that a truck bomb completely destroyed the entire face of this gigantic federal building.
Bomb.
That's exactly what it was. They said it was a fertilizer bomb.
Didn't they also say it was this size at first, and then they said no, it must have been this size, and then they were like, no, actually it was this size.
Exactly.
So what
And
you're saying is
as soon as he saw that, Michael Aquino called Ted Gunderson and said, the blast pattern, I'm looking at the news coverage in prison right now, I designed the bomb that did that.
Yeah.
I sold that patent for an explosive
to the government,
and they used it in this, and there's no fucking way that a fertilizer bomb did this much damage. They've tried to recreate the amount of damage on similar structures with fertilizer bombs that occurred on OKC. Not even close. Not even close.
So are you telling me now that Timothy McVeigh didn't have as much to do with this as the government did?
100%.
He was just like a patsy.
100%. He is the Lee Harvey Oswald
of OKC.
of the Oklahoma City bombing. Yes, absolutely.
I mean, I think he was definitely down with it. Was happy that it happened.
This is the thing So let's go back for a second. You talk about a guy that's predisposed to critical thinking.
Sure.
You talk about a guy
He was a patriot, a real patriot.
Assumedly,
and that's that I just said.
No.
Here's the thing: the guy was a patriot, and he's been deemed a fucking horrible person,
a right-wing
radical, crazy person.
Some questions that are critical about how many do people die? Because I don't know a whole lot about the actual outcome of it. People died in the building.
Let me tell you something. The claim, and for the record, I'm not saying that I disagree with this. I'm saying that the official story is bullshit, so I don't know what to believe. I will say that definitively. I don't buy the official story on the Oklahoma City bombing. But the claim is that people died. In the Alfred P. Murrah building in downtown Oklahoma City, do you know the government agency that had an office, the largest office in the state, in that building? The ATF. Not a single ATF person died in that explosion that day. Not only that, there wasn't a single ATF person at work.
Yeah.
On
So
that
they were
day.
told not to come.
Yes, of course.
Okay. Well,
Here's something I know.
My other question is that if a guy like this, say it had nothing to do with the government, and
Just McVeigh.
Yeah, he thought what he was doing was right, and he goes and he blows up this building. Do you think that's a good thing?
No, and he even
Because isn't that
listen.
not horrible?
There's
Like,
a thing.
I don't think there's ever.
There are statements that he's made after the fact, right? And he said, I should have targeted the people that I was mad at that were involved with Waco. He's even said that he has made statements saying that basically what I did was out of anger because and essentially all government workers are a part of the problem. So he's not like really redacting all of it, but what he was saying was I was upset
just because a
massively
government worker's part of the problem doesn't mean they deserve to die.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. He said I should have targeted individuals that were directly involved with Waco because that's what set me off.
But I still think that that's wrong.
Yeah, of course.
Is it?
I think that it is. I think that's wrong.
Well, you're stealing a life from someone.
And
It's wrong. You're going to
and-
pay for it.
and I think unless that person, I mean, I think there are cases where if someone has committed an act of injustice or killed someone, that someone else could take justice out on them, and then there's nothing wrong with that.
That's what he was saying he
But-
should have done.
But
He said I should have taken out the justice that needed to be happen on the people who did the wrongdoings and not the people. I shouldn't have blown up. Basically, he was saying I shouldn't have blown up a federal building that had people that didn't really have anything to do with Waco. In
yeah,
it.
because I'm all for standing up against the government, but like not that long ago, a guy went and he attacked an ICE facility, and it was right after AOC was like they have internment camps. They have concentration camps at these ICE facilities, and so that was directly related to why he went and made some like makeshift Molotovs and threw them at the cars or whatever, right? And it's like I think what he did is completely horrible and wrong. I think that some of the things that ICE agents do are completely horrible and wrong. But he had no idea that if those people had concentration camps, well, obviously they fucking didn't, or if they've ever done anything wrong. You don't get to just go attack a random government facility because you disagree with the government. You don't get to just commit acts of violence against people who you don't know. You don't know the actions they've taken, regardless of even the job they hold may be wrong and you disagree with. You don't get to just go commit acts of violence against them because of that.
But here's the thing, Caleb.
You're doing just as wrong as they are.
Hold on. Let me.
You can't evaluate every single person.
Exactly. Exactly.
At some point, you're liable for what you line yourself with.
Exactly. You are liable for what you line yourself with. You are the one who is being ignorant to the situation, right? You're ignoring.
So the
things.
consequence of ignorance is death.
Sometimes it is because when
But
revolution happens,
but what y'all are saying
the
is
consequence
that
of
when
ignorance
when
is
anyone
death.
aligns themselves with this, then that's the outcome that they deserve.
Not always, but here's the thing: when revolution breaks out, there are people who were loyalists to the king during the Revolutionary War, right? They were just people who maybe at the time didn't understand everything, but they were being ignorant to the fact that freedom was the ultimate
ignorance
goal.
is no excuse.
Yes, but
Your ignorance is no excuse.
And at the moment
so
they take up
therefore,
arms against you, then you take up arms
They
against
have
them.
though, because they are
But-
supporting a thing that literally puts a foot on the neck of every free man.
Absolutely. Let me interject here for a second. The government has already taken arms up against you. Already.
Yes.
Already. Because, like we were talking about earlier, specifically with Bill Cooper, try
Try paying your
to
taxes.
get away
I
from playing
understand.
ball.
I understand.
They come to
You
your
have-
house and they murder you in front of your family.
But
it's
think-
coercion. That's what I was talking about with taxes. It's coercion. You're being coerced
No, I agree.
under the threat of force to comply or suffer.
I
You
agree.
have two options.
I agree. But my point is that for every action there's equal reaction. And so
I'll send you guys that for later.
there are different levels of government evil, and they may be all contributing, but that doesn't mean they all should be held to the same standard or the same punishment.
Also,
that's my point.
Right, and the point that I just made is an important point. But I also agree with you, and let me break it down a little differently from my own perspective. The moment that you take up arms, you're as bad. I'm assuming that at least 4 out of the 5 of us in here are pretty much on board with the non-aggression principle, correct?
Absolutely.
So, and this is the problem.
Just because you don't understand that you're being the aggressor doesn't mean that you are going to reap the repercussions of what I have to come back at you with.
Absolutely. And I agree with what you said. So, in light of attempting to value that principle and not violate it, you stop feeding the beast, which is not, and you're a big, I love anytime we have a conversation about this, because it always comes back to this with you. Non-compliance is the answer. 100%. You stop feeding the beast. Stop. And I'm not talking about as an individual, because right now, if you stop doing that, they're going to come to your house and murder you. Sure. This is something, especially with like anarchists and things like that people fail to realize, is that at this current moment, that shit is not going to work. It's right. It's proper. It's justifiable morally. Mm-hmm. It's not going to work.
Sure.
If you pulled out the cornerstones right this moment, shit would almost certainly be ugly.
So that's. I'll ask you a question.
If the majority of the country did, I don't think they would have any. That would be
and that's what we're doing right now, right here.
Yes.
Is that's the work that has to be done before we get out from under our enslavers. Is that people as a collective have to understand that you don't owe these institutions you don't owe them a thing, that they're actively stealing from you.
Yes.
Every time they take a dime, and that we can collect. It's so crazy, man. Like, people have no idea about mathematics. There are more people like you and I, exponentially, than there are people that are enforcing the current system.
Yep,
it's
absolutely.
The difference is exponential.
They fucking told us this shit in the fucking animated movie Ants. I remember watching that as a
Woody
child.
Allen's the man, even though he's banging his daughter right now.
Yeah.
I don't know about any of that.
You don't have to. That's what's happening right now.
It's 100% a fact.
All right, that's fine. But all I know is that as a child, when I watched ants, and the ant colony were being persecuted by the fucking grasshoppers, and one of them that said, "Look around, guys. We have the numbers. They cannot control us.
Absolutely.
We are the majority. We will destroy them if we all band together and take this back."
But see,
that's and
my
as
point.
a child, that was fucking revolutionary to me. I fucking saw that as a fucking 8-year-old and was like, "Oh shit!"
You don't gotta shoot them. It's just
don't feed them.
Yeah.
You just don't feed them. Stop doing what they tell you to do.
Yeah, well, see, and that's my point. Like, I think that it's very counterproductive for. Whether it be, like, say it is an actual individual who thinks the government's corrupt and that they need to go and attack a government facility to prove their point. That is the worst fucking thing you can do, because first off, the majority of the people in that building are contributing to it, but their minds can be changed. The people at the top's minds are never going to be changed. But the more minds that are changed, the better chances we have.
Right.
And to go and do something like that is only going to change people's minds, regular citizens' minds, the opposite direction.
I agree.
And I think it's just completely counterproductive to even mention or to
agree with you, and I
to
think that's
claim
where,
that anybody who's ever done anything like that is a hero in any way.
Yes.
I think they're fucking horrible.
Listen, I think that's because where Timothy McVeigh went wrong.
How to approach this is not violence, it's knowledge. It's teaching people and changing people's minds.
That is the way. But here's the thing, right? McVeigh basically admitted to that later on, right? He broke natural law by, and there may be more to this whole story, like you were saying a minute ago, right? I'm sure there is more to this whole story.
The video I just sent you is solidly sourced. You guys should absolutely watch it.
I will watch it.
Yeah, I've seen like that.
But what I'm saying is like he himself has said that what he did wasn't the right move. Right? Now, he broke natural law when he hurt people that weren't involved with it, who had no idea, right? People are stupid. And their minds can be changed. You are right when you say that, right?
Yeah.
So I agree with you that he went a little further than he should have, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes when there are certain individuals that do wrong things and maybe they need to be dealt with, right? And he agreed that what he didn't deal with the specific people that were wrong that needed to be dealt with. He hurt other people. Now, they were perpetuating a system that hurts all of us, right? And so, in a way, you look at it and you go, well, right? But I'm with you.
But see,
because it's the non-aggression principle, right?
my
Those
point
people
that
are stupid,
the
and
fact
they deserve a chance to be brought to the other side.
Yes.
And if you don't give them that chance, then you have broken natural law because you've become the aggressor and not the non-aggressor.
Exactly.
And I agree with you,
I think
100%.
The whole
100%.
conspiracy
And I think
behind OKC proves my point that they perpetrated that so it would affect the cause negatively.
yes,
Absolutely.
And,
Yes.
and I
Absolutely.
and it
mentioned
did
this in the last
it
podcast.
did because Timothy McVeigh, as what he did, if you look at it and you understand, you think critically about what happened, the man was not necessarily an evil person, right?
Also, let's take that a step further. Let's get esoteric for a second. We all understand that there are Satanist overtones to the elite class, right?
Absolutely.
A major tenet of Satanism is the idea of manufacturing consent, where you take a person, you channel these ideas into the mainstream through this person, and if no one objects, that's the same thing as them consenting. Mm-hmm. If no one stands up and goes, no, this is not cool, even though it's media, that seems fucked up, whatever, like if nobody stands up and goes, this is wrong and it should never happen in real society, those same people can go, all right, well then you just said it was okay, and they can do what you want. And karmically, they escape the retribution that's coming to them because you allowed it to happen. Now,
Yes.
you take that concept, like I was talking about earlier, and I can't believe I've said this 8 times on this podcast because this is hot take material, dude. I'm going to regret this, but...
It's okay. Nobody listens.
Yeah,
We told him not to.
I'm also joking. I don't give a shit because I would tell this to
All
anybody
20
who
people are
was trying to
government
argue
officials.
with me. But
It's just all the government.
Yeah.
literally, that would be the look of somebody
27
that's like actually open-minded and trying to figure this shit out, is that every single listener is somehow intelligence connected and we all die. But
maybe we'll just change their minds.
Maybe.
Start a
They
revolution
come
from the
here
inside.
on our side.
I'm gonna need Ethan to talk more if we're gonna change their minds. You've been quiet as fuck.
Yeah, you just
But,
been talking the whole time.
I have been very quiet. This is weird. We need your brother here all the time to keep your fucking mouth shut.
Anyway,
He's kept
Anyway.
That's kind of shitty.
anyway,
he's being dirty.
Don't talk to my best friend like that.
Exactly. We have the same car.
you guys hanging out could be a TV show.
Same car. Known each other for years.
Jason gave him a loan through the fucking window at a fucking bank
North
once.
South.
Yeah,
According
he was
to
the bank teller.
I didn't say that.
Man
but
never worked at
go
First
back to your
South.
point.
Never worked at a fucking window.
This is way more important than my point. What?
That's why I've been quiet, because I'm listening and learning.
No, all right. So, talk about manufacturing consent. Take the inverse of that in like manufacturing opposition. You take a guy like Timothy McVeigh, because this is the thing. Timothy McVeigh was in the military for much longer than his official record says. Mm-hmm. Timothy McVeigh sent pictures to his girlfriend or wife or whatever it was a year and a half after he, on record, was ejected from the military and claimed that he had been recruited as a pilot to fly drugs on CIA planes into the United States during the Iran-Contra scandal. So, let's imagine for a second that at this point he's been recruited by intelligence agencies, because that's how that works. Mm-hmm. And the intelligence agencies are who conducted all of that. Now, you take this, and again, like I said, I'm skeptical to even say this, but the manifesto that he wrote looks like a prediction of the future that came true as far as technology and stuff.
Yep.
You take all that, you take a guy, he says the truth about plans that there are certain people in the world that already know about it. Mm-hmm. They know this is what they're going to do. They know this is how they're going to seize control, and you admit to every single word of it in this manifesto, but then You have this guy blow up a building. You've simultaneously admitted what you're going to do, and you've admitted it through a vessel that no one in their right mind, without any type of understanding of this, is going to believe.
Yep.
And right there, you've manufactured the consent of the entire world by attaching the message to a vessel that no one wants to get behind.
Yep.
Boom.
Boom.
There it is. There's your technocracy right there. There's your karmic absolvement of every single piece of the control that we're exerted under today. Right there.
Yep.
There it is. It's gone. Read the manifesto.
I'm going to read all of it.
You should.
I've read part of it. I've read some of
I
his
love that
letters.
this came up because it's one of those subjects that doesn't get discussed enough anymore. And it's so important.
Because it is old.
And
it's old.
I actually have spent hours on OKC because it is 9/11 before 9/11. It's like it's the precursor event to 9/11.
It is.
It's as important. And when you look at the wider context of the people involved, you understand that like this is an event that needs to be examined. And I just happen to follow people that have done work on it. The people that I trust happen to believe that this is an important event that needs to be discussed and understood on a macro scale.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at with it. Is that like that you take a message like that. This guy, like I said, dude, like you read the manifesto. It reads like a time traveler wrote it.
Yeah.
Straight up.
It's like fucking reading 1984, right?
It's the panopticon. You have a person in every position watching you on the inner circle in all these overlapping circles so that every single move you make is reported and observed. He wrote about that basically word for word in his manifesto.
Yep.
And then he went and blew up a building so that not a single person in the world
will
that
ever fucking believe him,
will ever support him in any way whatsoever.
Unless you're,
like I said,
critical enough to realize that maybe the guy wasn't crazy.
No. Or also maybe the guy did exactly the job
that he was told to do. Maybe. Very possible, man.
He was in the military for much longer
than what you think.
Than the military will admit.
Yeah, and that's something that I feel like is a regular thing. Where
George H.W. Bush
get you out,
did not have a job in the CIA.
Ops, Black Ops.
George H.W. Bush did not have a job in the CIA until the late 70s. George W. Bush was the point man for the JFK assassination, and it's indisputable almost at this point when you start to really look at the details of who was in Dallas at that time, who was working for government bodies, who E. Howard Hunt, something Harrelson, Woody Harrelson's father was a hitman for the mafia, and said over and over and over again, I was in Dallas on the day JFK was assassinated. I was one of the people who pulled the trigger. There were multiple shooters, myself, E. Howard Hunt, and all these other people who came out on their deathbeds and said, oh yeah, by the way, we killed Kennedy. E. Howard Hunt admitted again and again and again on his deathbed, had a 30-year career with the CIA, that he pulled the trigger on the day that John F. Kennedy was assassinated, along with 8 other people, and it's the same type of thing. They just falsify the records.
Wasn't there a kid that saw
there was a deaf
group
kid
of guys with
in the sewer
briefcases going?
There was a fucking deaf kid.
Like there was a kid who saw
who's still alive today, who still claims the same story, never changed the story. Right? He's a deaf grown man now. Right?
He's still a kid
who, as a kid, was like, I watched a guy shoot from this particular fucking position.
Not only is there that deaf kid, there's over 30 people that were in various places in Dealey Plaza that said they saw gunshot flashes and heard the noises in entirely different directions all around this central location where the bullet finally fucking pierced his dumb skull. That have never changed their stories, like you said. But this is the thing. When you have corporate-controlled media, is the only thing that you have to do is not interview those people. You don't even have to discredit them. Just don't talk to them.
Just don't talk to them.
Just don't talk to them.
Because then they'll fucking get some jackass on YouTube to fucking interview them, and no one will ever give a fuck about that.
Yeah, and even if people see it, it's like, well, he wasn't on the mainstream media, so this probably
wasn't on the Communist News Network or the MSLSD fucking network.
Isn't that bullshit? What is the Aurora shooting? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, they did the same thing with that same exact instance where there was flashes from different...
I don't have a lot of information on that, but there's a quote that always stuck with me that people write off that needs to be examined so thoroughly, which is that the bomb squad respondents, after he was arrested, I don't know if you guys remember this or not, his apartment was rigged to explode.
Yeah.
The claim was that the explosives in his apartment were so complex that it took the bomb squad multiple days to disarm the explosives that were set in his apartment. This guy was supposedly a pedestrian.
schizophrenic.
He was a pedestrian.
He was a gambler.
They said that these people worked for the military. They said this was some of the most complex explosive setups they had ever seen.
By the way, after
That right there is worth asking questions about, and no one, ironically, except for Alex Jones, asked a single fucking question about that shit. Which Alex is control opposition. You know, what I mean that's an entirely different.
I'll eat my neighbors if I have to. Have you heard him say that?
Yeah.
I'll eat your ass.
He's the best.
Give him that.
He's the best comedian on the planet.
I'll give you 100%.
He's not trying to be.
Yeah.
No, but like you said, after about 2 weeks,
Him and
everyone
Trump
just gave
are the
the
two
fuck
best
up.
comedians on the planet right now.
Trump's better than him. This is the thing. If COVID cancels the presidential debate this year, I'm blowing up a government building.
Yeah, because it's going to be the best comedy special of all time.
There's not a single... And Louis C.K.'s back on tour. His hour is some of the best shit I've ever heard. There's not a comedian on the planet that would come close to Donald Trump calling Joe Biden a pedophile on national TV.
And Joe
it's going to be...
just
It's going to be...
gaffing left and right.
And this is the thing is like he's going to slip it in sneakily again and again and again. He's like, you know, I'm a great American and I love my children. Not as much as Joe Biden loves children, but I love my children. Like, it's going to be that type of stuff over and over. Dude, brilliant. He's going to destroy... Dude,
Yeah.
I don't sniff their hair.
they both work for the same team, and I still want to see Trump destroy him in a debate because they are so goddamn funny.
I saw
dude.
this chick today online, and she made some kind of filter where she can sit there and talk, and then while she's talking, like, it's got Biden, like, right here, and if she moves her head, he kind of goes.
That's incredible.
It's amazing.
I saw. Okay, this is kind of unrelated, but I saw some footage of Roger Stone's deposition that he, not from the stuff he was convicted of, but a lawyer suing him for something unrelated, some civil case, and
All the way back. That guy's been a political fixer for 50 years.
Sure, but so this lawyer's suing him, and the lawyer is questioning him, and Roger Stone is being Roger Stone, and he's like, you know, that's a bullshit question. Fuck you. Just, you know, going off. Just and his Roger Stone's lawyer's going, stop it, Roger, stop, Roger, just stop, Roger, Roger, stop, and he's just going on and on and on, like, just like, he asked me a real fucking question. That's bullshit. But then at the very end of it, right? Because, you know, I'm not a fan of Roger Stone.
Right, of course.
But it was a very funny video. But at the very end of it, as he was getting up, he said something about enjoy continuing to molest your children. I saw those documents. And the dude's response, I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was very strange. Like, he was just like, oh, you did? You saw them? Yeah. Like, what documents? What he didn't say.
I had those sealed. You didn't see those.
Yeah, and it was like like something that they both knew about, and probably Roger Stone's involved in as well. But he knew he could call him out on it right here in the moment as he walked away.
Of course.
And I was like, that's fucking weird because Roger Stone obviously knows some dark secrets of the inner workings.
Well,
of
Roger Stone was like a cornerstone in the whole Watergate thing almost 50 years ago. Like that guy has been a deep state agent he's made his living off of it since he was old enough to make a living.
I just love his face and his teeth.
Listen,
like the way he talks.
It's one of those
so
things where if I didn't have any objective concept of morality, that guy would be one of my favorite people on the planet, because he's so good at what he does.
Yeah.
He's a character from Goodfellas.
Yeah.
Like Roger Stone is a character from Goodfellas, and it's
gangster.
amazing how good he is at it. Like
he's a good fella.
This is the thing, man. You have to respect your enemy. Like, I respect entirely specifically those people that are like, fuck you.
Yeah,
I'm the man.
Yeah,
try me, you pussy. Like
everything that the guy said
you
was
have
like,
to respect
you
it,
did
dude.
this. He's like,
that's
a lie.
It's not right.
That's
it's
bullshit.
not commendable.
Didn't happen.
Yes, it's not right. It's not commendable. But you have to look at that and go like, that's a man.
Yeah.
Like regardless of
At
whether
least
he
he's a
stands in the
man.
right or the wrong, that's a man right there. The man made a decision. He stood by it, and he amassed himself millions of dollars in influence on global policy because he decided to be a man.
Yeah.
He's a scumbag, and I hope that he rots in hell But hats off to you for at least being a man.
Yeah,
especially
and being
now,
entertaining.
where being a man is the worst thing you could possibly be on the entire planet. Like,
Yeah.
respect to Roger Stone, the criminal scumbag fuck that he is. Shout out Roger Stone. Hit me up.
Yeah, well, it's pretty evident that you have some toxic masculinity. In
Yeah,
you.
of course. Ethan, I've been calling
Super
women
toxic.
dog brains since I got into town. It's not a secret.
Donkey brain is a more preferred term.
Dog brain. They're dog brains. They
I
see
have a
something move and they go
I'll give you.
and get all excited and fired up, and
They're like
there's no
those-
logic
they're
behind
like
it. It's just
those
like I saw
birds.
something move.
What are
Let's go see what it is. Let's go right now. It looks like it's shining.
What are those
Kinda
birds
sound like
that
Alex
like?
Jones a little bit. It's like, just like
kinda
the way
what
you're
I'm-
saying shit.
It's kind of what I'm going for.
Yeah, he gets on those little.
Everyone's
Jonesy
laughing.
rants.
I'm in.
They're
You guys
like
weigh
those
the
birds
same, at
though
least.
that like collect shiny silver like tinfoil and stuff, and they gather them in their nest. Like
Little-
they go searching everywhere for the
Hoarder
little piece of
birds.
shiny trash. And
It's
like,
not an insult. Dog brain's not an insult. Somebody's got to have them.
I mean, we have lizard brains. They have dog brains.
You're a genius.
Just
You're a
saying.
genius because you understand the lay of the world, dude.
I know how it works.
Congratulations. You're gonna be fine because you get it.
Oh man.
Kidding, folks.
I'm not.
Sav, where are we at? How far are we in?
An hour and 26 minutes. Don't do that.
Well,
It's going well right now.
it is going well, but our listeners typically only listen to about 15 minutes.
So we're way past the mark.
We're
anyway.
way past the mark.
All right. Leave them wanting more. That's kind of the thing. Let's cut it off.
We can cut it off. We can end it, and that way our listeners will only miss out on,
An hour and
15 minutes.
Yeah. We love
But
you
that's
guys.
all right.
Listen all the way through. It's worth it.
You know-
Trust
Unless
us.
you got a mask on, then fuck off.
That's right. We have
Yeah,
told
I
you
agree.
before
Come
that
to
is
my
when the
house and
title
blow
of
me
a
if you have a mask
video.
on.
That video has the least amount of views
It
out of all of
does.
them.
It does.
The title is like, if you wear a mask,
Don't listen.
fuck off and do not listen to this.
Unsubscribe.
Yeah, unsubscribe.
I love you so much.
Um,
Do you guys know that all of your podcast titles, you guys are just ripping out Fall Out Boy? And
Really?
all those bands and like
Well, I
taking
will kind of give you that,
sentences
but
that are abstract to
I didn't realize
everyone.
that after I started doing it, I was like, I think, because I was listening to Devil Wears Prada, I was like, they're kind of doing the same thing.
With the
Yeah,
title.
that's definitely
Yeah,
an
no,
old
you
school
guys,
metal
you
song
guys got
thing.
your title. I like the format for your titles from that genre, that era of like.
Sav can do that. Sav
Listen,
was in a
so-
band.
He's the genius.
Well,
He's the
hold on,
genius behind it.
Hold on. When did I say that was a problem? In what I just
Yeah,
said?
you're right.
I
You're
love
right.
it.
It's great.
I love
it's
it.
fantastic.
It worked. That was our original bond.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Don't get me wrong, but that's what you guys are doing.
And it
If
also
Daniel hadn't been wearing a Devil Wears Prada shirt, I don't think we'd be here.
We
right
wouldn't be friends right now.
I'll give you
That's
that.
true.
I'll
If
give
I
you
hadn't
that.
bought that fucking
now.
shirt.
That hippie over there.
Yep. All right, everybody. Thanks for
Love you
listening.
guys. Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time. Bye.
peace out.
Stop. Pause.
Hit the space bar.
Boom.
Nope.